Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. Today we're looking at West Coast Avengers number 42, John Byrne's triumphant return to Marvel, the beginning of Vision Quest, and such an amazing story. Look at this gorgeous cover. Cannot wait to share it with you. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and let's get right into it. So that is correct, ladies and gentlemen. 1988, John Byrne is returning to Marvel after leaving to revamp Superman at DC Comics post Crisis on Infinite Earths. And the prodigal son has returned. They say you can't go home again. In this case, you could. And John Byrne came back. Allegedly, he wanted to do like Fantastic Four and X Factor. And they said no, no, no. And gave him West Coast Avengers and She Hulk. So, I guess you got to eat a little humble pie when you ditch Marvel for the dynamic competition, go out in a blaze of glory, burning Jim Shooter and effigy, and all kinds of fun stuff like that. But, he's back, and let's see. Tom DeFalco is here, so maybe that facilitated it. I'm not sure, but I wonder. Interesting, right? If Jim Shooter would have been still at Marvel, I'm sure he would have let bygones be bygones and taken Byrne back. I'm almost 100% positive. Now, this is interesting lettering, and one of the things that you notice that you never noticed before. I feel like this should be red behind here. I'm not sure if the outline should be open like that or not. There's something a little off in the missing. There's something missing in the missing. One of our androids is missing. West Coast Avengers, Mike Matchlin, inker, Bill Oakley, letterer, Paul Beckton, colorist, Howard Mackey, editor, Tom DeFalco, editor-in-chief, and welcome aboard to John Byrne, writer and penciler. Certain art and dialogue freely adapted from the works of Sal Buscema, Steve Englehart, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, George Tuska, and Carl Burgos. See, that's when you gave credit to your homages back in the day, or your swipes. Scarlet Witch has these, twin sons that were basically, how does an android and a mutant conceive of twins? It's a little bit of magic or hex power or whatever. And, this is famously, a lot of this was put into the WandaVision series. And, a lot. I felt like it was very heavily influenced by this run on West Coast Avengers and, the stuff with the twins and all that stuff. I love it. I love this old school Wanda costume. John Byrne draws such a great Scarlet Witch. He draws such great superheroes anyway. I love looking at his art. Mike Matchlin is a good match here. I do feel, obviously the printing is pretty terrible and, looks a little muddy. I would love to see it new and fresh and clean and clear as it should be. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that this would look amazing in an artist edition. Tigra is going through some sort of feral evolution or something. John Byrne sometimes leaves titles before he explores all the facets of the things he wants to do. It's funny because he was kind of famous for like jumping ship on series, but it's like after he's been there for like 2 or 3 years, which is a longer commitment than you'll get from anybody anymore anyway, ever. So kind of weird, but you can't, how can you stay on this title for the rest of your life? And, I feel like the Tiger thing was not as realized as it should have been, and probably more realized than it should have been in some ways, if you know what I mean. Um, and I don't know if that scene that I'm referring to is in this book, but it got a little weird with Tigra. It does sometimes get a little weird with Byrne, right? But that's okay. Here come the invaders, like the reverence for the past. I feel like that, John Byrne has kind of been known as like a fixer. And I love frickin' Simon Williams, Wonder Man's mullet here. Thank you. Let's see. So he's kind of a fixer, but I feel like he would, like, one of his big things would be like trying to find something in continuity that either didn't make sense or he thought he had a good solution to, or a simple solution to that would make sense, and try to connect the dots in certain ways, if story ideas didn't make sense or add up or whatever. How cool is this? So Simon, I love Wonder Man, right? So he's inside. He flies inside Ultron, and then powers his way out. That is so great. Lots of great zipatone here. It's funny because I'd never noticed this before, and it would kind of make sense, but isn't this giving you like John Buscema vibes? I mean, John Buscema did draw one of the greatest visions ever, obviously. But so now I'm seeing some of that. You know, and John Byrne is always very much his own artist, but I feel like he has reverence and tribute in a lot of his art. And Mockingbird, love that. So cool. Oh my gosh, such a fun era. I loved West Coast Avengers, which becomes Avengers West Coast by the time Byrne leaves. And then look, and now begins the night. That's so interesting, right? Historically, like that, you know, because I mean, obviously they could control Sting, but John Byrne's known for Alpha Flight, so it has this house ad for Alpha Flight, and Carl Potts and Jim Lee inking. Very cool cover. Love that. I loved Jim Lee's Alpha Flight. Not for the story, for the art. Anyway, that's it, guys. West Coast Avengers 42, The Return of Byrne. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button, and I'll bring you more later.